So last year, ASUS had the Zephyrus G15. This was a great product, and this was my favorite laptop from 2021. It was a nice blend of performance to size with a really nice design aesthetic. This was like chef's kiss to me. But there was another product last year called the M16, and this had the same idea as the G15, but it had two differences. It had a screen that was better. It had a bigger screen, 16:10 aspect ratio, really thin bezels, and it was also running Intel's chips. But because last year's Intel's chips ran hot, this made the product worse, in my opinion, than the G15. Like, it just wasn't worth the extra fan noise and the extra cost to pick up this thing, so my personal decision was to go for the G15 last year. Now, this year, they've both been refreshed. The new G15 with all its new AMD stuff, and the new M16. And this is rocking Intel's newest stuff. So the big difference this year is that Intel's 12th gen chip, their Alder Lake stuff, is awesome. And it made me so much more interested in checking out the new M16 and comparing it with my favorite laptop from last year. So this device, the G15, it hasn't changed that much on the exterior. It still has this white finish as an option, and I gotta say, the material is actually quite durable. I have a 2-year-old kid who scribbled all over my old one with a marker, and it came off without any issues. No scratches, no scuffs. I think they did a good job with the durability of the material. This year, the keyboard has a slight iridescent finish to the keycaps. Like, it's something that is subtle, but it is different from last year's model. And there's also RGB lighting on the white color option this year. On the inside, we're looking at DDR5 memory, but it still only has a single stick that's swappable, 2 NVMe drives, and MediaTek Wi-Fi again. Now, in terms of performance, this year it's running a 6900 HS, and it's about 15% faster than last year's model when you're looking at benchmarks. But the more interesting thing to me was the GPU. So this review unit is running an RTX 3070 Ti, and this is actually the first laptop I've had with one of these new Ti labeled GPUs. And this device gets faster GPU performance than the 3080 on last year's model. So it's got a lower spec card, so a 3070 Ti isn't as decked out as a 3080, but because ASUS is pumping more wattage into this GPU, it's able to outperform the 3080. And that difference in wattage, plus the addition of the new Mux switch for a little extra kick, gives this device great performance. And every game I benchmarked was faster on the new G15, despite having a lower spec GPU compared to last year's model. But the thing I was concerned about was heat, because the thermal system hasn't changed. It's still running liquid metal on the CPU, it's got the same heat pipe system, the same fans, and those components were able to cool the previous G15 without any issues. But when you have an extra 20 watts being fed into a system like this that is as thin and light as this, it can make a difference. But fortunately, it keeps up. It does run a little bit hotter compared to last year's model, but overall I don't see any issues with heat. It still does blow hot air against the bottom bezel, but unless you change the entire design of the laptop, that's something you just had to live with. I do need to mention a thing. So when I first got it, I threw Overwatch onto it and I was playing. I wasn't recording the screen, I wasn't even running any logs for hardware info, but I noticed the temperature spiked up to like 81, 82, and there was a blip of a throttle. It just happened. Now, I couldn't recreate it. And because I wasn't recording it, I have no proof of this. And some people are like, cool story, bro, no pics, didn't happen, but it did happen. Now, the responsible thing for me to say is that I don't think it's an issue. It just happened once. It could have been like a background process or something that was happening, and that's why it happened, but I truly could not recreate a throttle in the system after that first day. Now, the screen has been upgraded this year. They have a 240 hertz panel as an option. It's got great colors, but the brightness hasn't changed. It's still only around 300 nits. It's moderately bright, but now they have a webcam up at the top. So for the people that were concerned about the lack of webcam, they have it this year, and it supports infrared technology, so you can log in with facial biometrics to get into Windows. Now, we got to move this conversation over to the M16, because I feel like as cool as this product might be, the conversation is not complete without this guy. So this came in a few days ago as well, same with the G15, and this is a system that is running the Alder Lake CPU. So in terms of the exterior and the aesthetics of this device, it's actually quite similar to the G15 and unchanged from last year, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail of it. Well, I will say that the keyboard deck has this soft touch matte rubber finish to it, which looks really nice when it's new, but it picks up fingerprints very easily. The screen on the M16 is also better. It's bigger, it's brighter, it's thinner bezeled while maintaining the same surface area as the G15. This is a really nice screen. But in terms of the performance, This CPU is so much faster than last year's M16 and significantly faster than this new G15. The GPU situation is also a little bit different this year. So last year, you could only get up to a RTX 3070 at the top end. I think the reason why they did it was that these systems were too hot, they couldn't handle it, so they couldn't put in an RTX 3080. This year, you can even get up to an RTX 3080 Ti on the M16. And the performance you're seeing on the system is so good. The Core i9 pairs really well with a 120 watt GPU. Now I use a program called Adobe Premiere to edit my videos, and the G15 last year was a good performer. It's kind of in the middle of the pack for performance laptops, but if you compare those to this new M16, this is on a whole new level. That 14 core chip is an amazing performer for multi-threaded applications, but it comes with the baggage of heat and fan noise. So like the M16 last year, if you want the best possible performance on this system, you have to crank the fans up and it gets loud. But unlike last year, you still get really good performance when it's on balance mode. And for me personally, that extra fan noise is absolutely worth it this year. So in the previous generation, you had to get crazy fan noise and it was slightly better. But this year, for this type of performance gain, absolutely worth it for a render. Like you just flick it on, render your video or do whatever it is that you need to do, turn it off. And that's like a huge time saver. Now I deal with time sensitive video content. And so for me, it really matters. And this is a personal thing, but I think for the people that are looking at a device like this and you have, workflows that require some extra kick and you want that extra CPU boost, this is so much better than the G15. Now, if you're just looking at this from a gamer's perspective, there's no way I would choose the M16 over the G15. It just isn't worth the price and the extra fan noise to me. But for the people that are using their devices for more than just games, this has awesome performance. I do think there's some software tweaks that need to come in. Like sometimes the system isn't hot, but the fans are still running. And there's a slider in the ROG software that feels broken. It's a thermal target for the GPU that throttles it way too aggressively. Now, in terms of battery life, there's no doubt the M16 has significantly worse battery life than the G15. It's the same battery size, but those AMD chips are so much more energy efficient than what Intel is offering right now. In terms of speakers, the speaker systems sound very similar between the G15 and the M16. I think they actually might be identical. There are 6 speakers and they actually sound quite good compared to the vast majority of gaming laptops out there. Now, my overall take on these systems. G15 is still a really solid system this year, but last year I just didn't even consider the M16 to be competitive. But this year, because Intel's chips are so powerful and so capable, this is a very solid system for the people looking for strong multi-threaded processing capabilities. But both are solid. G15 has its clear advantages as well, but there you have it. The G15 with the efficiency of AMD's new chips and the new M16 with monster performance from Intel and its big screen. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.